Unfortunate man. Okay, I'm going to mess up this name horribly, and I don't want to. We're looking for, who is Amen? There? Before you come, just before you come up, what made you want to come in tonight?
The theme resonated.
Okay, that theme resonated. I will take that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I pronounce it properly. Amen Nassar.
Jobs. We were having a conversation yesterday and everyone is talking about how they hate their jobs, but I actually love what I do. Truly, no doubt. And I'll tell you why. This story goes back 10,320 kilometers, where I was born and raised in a country called Kuwait, and my first job in 2007. I worked as an accountant, but it was basically just a glorified title for data entry. It was my first job, so I was very happy with it. My manager was somewhat nice until he wasn't. And that switch from being a nice manager to being someone who, I know you guys won't understand or appreciate this, but my brother was getting married at the time, and I wanted to attend the wedding back home from Kuwait, where I was living, in Egypt, where I'm from. And my manager tells me, bring me your passports, because we weren't allowed to keep our passports. This was the dark ages in that it was 2007 and the internet was not as prevalent as it is now. The computer I worked on ran Windows 98, if anyone is familiar with it. I kept myself sane by reading people's CVs, or as they were called at the time, biodata. I got my first break when I was able to switch departments, and I went to work for another person. Now, fortunately, this person had internet, like actual internet. And I speak of it like it's this thing that you could not have because it was so difficult to get on. So through the internet, I found another job that I applied for, a public accountant. Now, I need to let you know that I hate accounting. But I applied for it anyway, and I went to the interview, and I failed the interview. They told me that you did not score the passing mark. But that's when I got a break, in that the manager I was going to work for, Ravi Kumar, saw my translation skills. And he said, I'm hiring you based on your ability to translate Arabic into English. And I was ecstatic. And he asked me, what is your expected salary? So I immediately threw a higher number than what I was making. He gave me an even higher number. And he said, but only on one condition. You have to cut your hair. Because at the time, my hair was yay long. I said, sir, for that amount of money, I will wear a dress and come to work. I went and started working at a public accounting firm. And that's where I met another person. His name was Muhammad Burini. He was from Palestine. What he did for me started off as just me finding a friendly face sitting at a desk next to mine. We became friends. He moved to the country newly. He was recently married, trying to build up his savings so he can bring his wife to Kuwait. And I saw him and I was like, you know what? I'm going to help this guy out. So the first day, I drove him to his house. They were renting him a hotel room. Later on, he managed to find a house with some other people, so roommates. I drove him there. I helped him to find an apartment. When his wife came, I was there to pick her up from the airport with him. When his mother came, I was there to pick her up. When he wanted to put his brother through university and he needed a loan, I helped him out. Now, you could think that, wow, you're such an altruistic person, but I was only doing it because this guy was really nice. But what happened was, throughout his life in Kuwait, he lived right next to where I lived. And he would carpool with me and my mom when we were going to work. So I would wait for him. He would come into the car. He'd talk about what he sees in his daily life. And the more he talked about it, the more I was like, I love what this guy is doing. And through him, I met another person named Amr Mursi. And there's a whole long story there, and I won't go into the details of it, but it is very serendipitous in how he was going to the gym. I joined him at the gym. I left my wallet in his car by mistake. The next day, I needed it for something at work. I had to drive to where he is, and then he tells me, we have an opening in my company in internal audits. Now, what I was doing at the public accounting firm, I was a tax accountant. And if you know anything about Kuwait, it's a country that's famous for a 3-letter word that ends in X, and it's not the first word you think about. It's a tax-free country. But I was working for the tax department. Go figure, go figure. So even though my manager was an amazing person, Ravi Kumar was the best of the best. I'm still in touch with him to this day. If I had stayed in that company, I would have reached a salary that I cannot imagine. But I decided to make a break and bet on myself. And in January 1st, on January 1st of 2010, I became an assistant internal auditor. And I kept that career that I was introduced to because of Muhammad Burini until 2022 when I left Kuwait. Now, the reason I tell you I took a chance on myself and I gave myself a break is because I wanted a career that can transcend borders. That if I ever needed to leave the country where I was born and raised and spent my entire life in, I would be able to land on my feet. And I did land on my feet when I came to Canada. Because even though I moved here in November of 2022, in the 1st of January 2023, I was working as a senior internal auditor at Dafasco. So the theme of giving a break and getting a break resonated well with me because if I hadn't seen that friend and dropped him off and really befriended him and then just learned from him on a whim about what he does, I literally would not be standing where I am today. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Ayman, another hand, please. That is absolutely fascinating. I had 2 questions. If there's no tax anywhere in Kuwait, I knew that. I worked with a guy from Kuwait. He said the same thing. How does the government get any money whatsoever?
Oil.
So are things leaving the country taxed or things coming into the country taxed?
The tax I worked in was corporate tax. So
okay.
It's corporate tax. There's no personal income or VAT or HST. It's just corporate tax, and it's only on the foreign portion of companies. So Kuwaiti companies don't pay taxes.
Okay, I have all kinds of technical questions I want to ask you, which I will not do here because it'll bore the hell out of them. When I'm not doing this, I'm a technical writer, but I've also been a business communicator for 3 of the big banks in Canada. So when you said you wanted something that you wanted a career that you could take out of the country, I understand that. I don't want to leave the country, but I became kind of a writer because I thought I could do this in law, I could do this in finance, I could do this in arts and so on. That was very cool. And I really want to make a cheap joke, which I don't want to do, but I
Please
really
go
have to.
ahead.
So you didn't wear the dress to work, did you?
No.
Okay. Because then I was going to say
suits. No.
color, the cut off the shoulder. That was absolutely fascinating. And you should give yourself a break. I mean, you said, I was not doing this for altruistic reasons. But then 10 seconds later, you said, I was doing it because he was a really nice guy. I mean, if you notice that in itself is kind of an altruism. You're recognizing the guy's compassion, his kindness, and you returned it. So you should give yourself more points.
Thank you.
Cool. And thank you very much. You take that. assuming no one here wants to hear about technical writing as applied to Canadian banking or debit and credit. I work for Metrolinx right now, so I could tell you about the standard operating. You don't want to know that.